Alright, so I just got home from the gym. I need to go shower. I just wanted to flex on y'all real quick before I made this video. You know what I'm saying? So like, subscribe to the channel. Like, if you're a stock trader, get healthy. I was really fat not too long ago. Go watch the videos. This is really weird. Yeah, I don't know what that was. That was really weird. But let's get into it. I want to talk about oil, and I'm going to give you guys a history lesson. I would do this on the computer as a screen share for you, but I've been busy and my mic is, I don't know where it is right now, actually. So I don't have time to set that up. Unless you want worse audio quality, let me know below. I would actually appreciate that. But, let's give this a personal touch too. Make it, that's where you got the flexing and all that. But no, seriously, let's talk about oil, and I want to go over the history and talk about the first ever oil crisis that's ever occurred, or I guess 1973, 1979, talk about the 2014 oil crisis, and now 2018 or 2019. And I want to go over that and answer the question, should you buy oil right now? And actually, that's pretty much the first thing I want to discuss, because this is where this came up on stream. We were talking, and I think I am going to stream tomorrow, so you guys could hop on 6 a.m. Yeah, you guys could hop on at 6 a.m. We're going to stream tomorrow. But we were talking about this, and someone asked, is now a good time to buy oil? It's dropped this and that. And I said, I don't really care for oil. I had puts recently, and I hit it on the head with it. I didn't like even the payout on them, but I'm not a fan of playing oil too much. And even I wanted to in 2014 when the first drop happened, but it reminded me of history and recent price movements on oil. It's kind of crazy that a lot of people are ignorant to the price of oil really in our modern history that you and I are all aware of. So I want to go over that. That's funny to look at. And I will say this too. I know there's a lot of people who know more about oil than I do. I know we got a lot of oil engineers and stuff like that who are on the channel, and I only know the political side of it. I know what I know about oils and companies, but even then, I'm not really too big of a fan of trading them. I like their effect on the economy and how it integrates into economics. But I'm up to date. I think I'm above the bar, but I'm definitely, I'm viewing as it just in this sense of both as just an investment and in this political scale. And really, I'm going to leave politics out of this to a degree, even though it's inherently political. But what I'm saying by that is some of the connections we have to, I'm not going to make any implications of what oil means today, but I think that we are in an oil crisis, because this is really the history and the breakdown. What happens is in 1973, that's when you get your first ever oil crisis. And pretty much OPEC agreed that during the Yom Kippur War, anybody they felt supporting Israel, they did an embargo on oil. And pretty much oil, we got to look at inflation adjustment, but at the time it was $3, it went to $12. And honestly, I'm not this smart. I'm looking at a Wikipedia page right here, which I'm about to show you guys in a little. I should probably just show you it right now. Actually, I was looking at the wrong one. I memorized the 1973, but that's where it starts, because I wasn't finished with what I wanted to tell you. Because what I was going to say is that this reminds me of now, because there's the first oil crisis in 1973, but then later there was a 1979 oil crisis that followed about 6 years later. So we saw the first oil crisis for us here in 2014, but now it's 2018, 4 years later. We go 2019, 5 years later, history's literally repeating itself, and this is what brings up my next issue. Whereas 1979 oil crisis, what happened was that after 1973, it occurred in the world due to decreased oil output in the wake of the Iranian Revolution, despite the fact that global oil supply decreased by only 4%. Widespread panic resulted, driving the price higher. The price of crude more than doubled, 39 over the next 12 months, and long lines against once appeared at gas station as they had in 1973. In 1980, following the outbreak of the Iran-Iraqi war, oil production in Iran nearly stopped and Iraq's oil production was cut. Economic recessions were triggered in the United States and other countries. Oil prices did not subside to pre-crisis levels till the mid-1980s.
After 1980, oil prices began a 20-year decline, except for a brief rebounding during the Gulf War, eventually reaching a 60% fall during the 1990s. Along with the 1973 crisis, global panics and power balances were impacted. Oil Mexicans became the top producers, yada, yada, yada. But there's a lot of things that happen. So pretty much during these oil crises, it was different, where the price of oil spiked, and well, that's where we were. Our prices of oil were at $100-something a barrel, as you see here. And now here's, you could see the price of oil plotted over history in the chart. But essentially, you saw how there was the first crisis, it drove prices up, and then 6 years later there was another one. But what I want to focus on is the resulting factor, where we kind of see the same thing happening, but for us, it's not necessarily I guess you could say coming in 2000 to 2018, or even 2005, even after 2010, oil went up a lot, but it's not like we were responding in a crisis level. It's not like we were scared we didn't have a lot of oil at the time when, back in 1973, America used like 1/3 of the oil demand, and we didn't produce that much. So now it's different now, and that's what I was saying with technology. Sorry for the camera movements, but I know people get mad at that. But the issue is now leading into, should you buy oil? Look at what happens from 1980 to 1990. That's 10 years. It drops, but then the next 10 years, it pretty much stays the same. And now this is crazy because you see recently, we've seen crazier fluctuations with oil prices and shorter, this is only a 5-year scale that we're seeing it. And that's the same thing that gets reflected during crises. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying ours is a crisis. But what I'm relating it to now is the timing. It's both the time of when all of this occurred. It was this 2014, we had an issue with oil in Russia and sanctions, and that had the spillover, even with the oversupply. And that's what they called it, pretty much I think there's another article I have for you guys. I think this is it. Is this it? Yes, here it is, the 1980s oil glut. So let's go back to this. So now, here's the next one. It pretty much is saying, and you guys should probably go to the page yourself if you want to see this better. Again, I'm sorry it's not screen cap, but I'll read it to you. 1980s oil glut was a serious surplus of crude oil caused by falling demand following the 1970s energy crisis. The price of oil, which had peaked in 1980 at over $35 a barrel, equivalent to $104 a barrel in 2008 dollars when adjusted for inflation, fell in 1986 from 27 to below 10. The glut began in the early 80s as a result of slowed economic activity in industrial countries due to the crises of the 70s, 73 and 79, especially 73 and 79, and energy conservation spurred by high fuel prices. Again, in New York Times, the state of oil glut is here, but pretty much what happened is the same thing here. And again, here's one of those, the price of oil, same thing we just looked at again. Hard to see. It's really not as important as to understand, you could go see those charts, but the concept here and what has occurred is that you had these oil crises, but then it was followed by this 1980s oil glut, and from 1980 to 2005 or 2005, oil dropped and stayed at the same price. So should you buy oil? I don't know. That's why I don't want to touch it, because I wanted to buy it during the first drop at like 60. I thought that was a good price. And then it went to 40. I thought that was a good price, and it proved to be 60. But now we're dropping back down. I think we're at 47 now. And once you start breaking those levels, it gets to hell. But, so much could happen with OPEC, this and that. But it's crazy to think where we are, and it's also crazy to see the parallels between 1979, 1973, and 1980, but we've gone through the same thing where there was an oversupply of oil, which is such a weird thing to say, because 10 years later, or a few years later, it was the same exact thing. 08, 09, Iraq War, we were like, I thought we didn't have gas. Remember, gas prices were so high, they stopped making goddamn Hummers, for crying out loud. I want an H2, And now oil's, it's going to get to the price of a bucket of chicken. It's pretty crazy. For a barrel, that's 40,000 gallons. It's pretty dope. But there's a lot at play here. hopefully you guys are paying attention. If you want to play it, be careful on the puts. But what I'm saying, I wouldn't touch it until we see what happens with the oil market. I think the play is going to happen in the resulting economic effects. Maybe some oil companies, if we do get this oil supply gut, you could look to short some of these. And I'm going to talk about that, and well, I guess I have to bring it up now. I can't make this in another video. This is the most important part. This is actually huge to make a playoff, so if you've watched the video this long, congratulations. But my play I'm actually really going to look for, that I thought about, is finding the companies that were dropped during the 2014-15, and a lot of those companies dropped substantially and they bounced, but some of them raised a lot of debt. So that leads into my next issue. That's why I'm saying find where oil has a crisis, and that could be the issue right now. It could just be energy, could be what's wrong with these banks, and I'm going to look at their loans. But essentially, what I want to see now is what companies pretty much only survived off of taking massive amounts of debts, have repayments, and are going to default. But the next thing I'm going to look at is the energy credit markets. And get ready, you guys are going to hear about credit markets, credit defaults happening, and this is why. And I think that, a lot of you have asked me what the next bubble could be or where to look. I honestly think that could be it. Energy loans, and the ones that were taken in before 2014 and then after 2014, because companies even like Chesapeake, huge multi-billion market caps, were wiped away, but they sold a lot of debt. They have a lot of debt too. So what's going to happen to that debt and who's holding it? It's going to be interesting, and I think that could be your bubble. So I don't know. Tell me what you think. Hope you guys like it. Subscribe. Give me your feedback. Let me know how many oil guys we got out there. Peace.